All right. So hello, everyone. This is our second Global Health Forum, and thank you for those that could make it on the Zoom video, and for those who couldn't, here's a video. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me. You know my email, or text me, or whatever. The topic of this forum is outdoor air pollution, urban smog, health implications, and mitigation. So here's the agenda. What we're going to go through. I'm going to give you a small intro to outdoor air pollution, just to get familiar with the topic. And we're going to talk about the nature paper that I sent to you guys, and then we're going to discuss it. We're going to see the different specifics, and then we are going to go over the Volkswagen paper that I sent to you. And we're going to discuss the ethics and what happened and whether it could have been avoided, or we're going to talk about the whole phenomenon. Then we're going to have an update from the fellows, which Paola is here, and I'm sure other people would later join, and if they can't, then we'll just have Paola give a little update. And then the global correspondent, which was going to be Mane from Morocco, she was going to give us a little presentation on a conference that she attended in Morocco. And in that conference, she presented about the Fair Air Coalition to very influential people. And she was going to tell us about it, but she couldn't make it. So I will tell you guys about it, and then she can later elaborate in a different forum. And then we're going to have a conclusion. So, as I mentioned, we're going to go over air pollution and what it is. So what is air pollution? Air pollution is when gases, particles, fumes, or odors are in the atmosphere or in a gas, or atmosphere meaning it could be inside your house or it could be outside. And it is pollution when the concentration is harmful to humans, animals, and plants. So that means that a pollutant like car emissions might not be necessarily pollution unless it's in a relatively high concentration. So if it is above a specific concentration, then it is considered pollution. And obviously that concentration is harmful. So air pollution can be both gases or particulates. And particulate or particulate matter can be either liquid or solid. A liquid, just think of a cloud, a bunch of droplets suspended in the air, or solids like a dust storm. And then gases, some of the very, well-known gases are the greenhouse gases. Those don't necessarily affect health, only a few of them do. And these gases are like CO2, methane, CH4, ozone, which you guys might be familiar with ozone layer. And since today's discussion, we're going to talk about urban smog, I will tell you guys now that ozone, when it's in the ground level, is harmful. And then when it's in the upper atmosphere, in the ozone layer, it is not harmful. It actually protects us from the sun, UV rays. And as some of you know, chlorofluorocarbons have been mitigated because they've been breaking the ozone layer. But it seems like it's coming together again. So ozone, when it's up there, it's not harmful, it's actually good, but when we breathe it, it is bad. And ozone is a secondary pollutant, meaning ozone does not come directly from cars or factories. It is formed in the atmosphere through photochemical processes. And what photochemical processes means is that it undergoes some processes in the atmosphere with sunlight. So yeah, ozone is a secondary pollutant that is bad. And in that list of gases, there isn't anything toxic. And then solids, the reason why solids, and I guess some liquids, and why they're very harmful for you is because they can deposit in your lungs, and if they're small enough, like particulate matter 2.5, which means particulate matter of 2.5 micrometers or smaller, they're so small that when you breathe them, it goes straight into your bloodstream and into your heart, and it can cause severe cardiovascular effects. So here's a picture of Los Angeles on a very clear day and a picture of Los Angeles on a not so clear day. And as you can see, there's this layer of a brown cloud, and that's what everybody calls smog. And a smog, the word smog came from the very famous London smog, because people thought it was fog, but it's actually not fog, it's pollutants. But what it basically is a smoky fog. But sometimes it doesn't even have any fog in it. It's just all suspended particles and ozone. So there's two different types of smog. There is a classic smog, like the London smog, which comes from coal burning and sulfur dioxide. And then there's the modern smog. The modern smog, like the LA smog, is made from emissions from cars. And then, as I previously mentioned with ozone, it undergoes photochemical processes in the atmosphere. And those processes create secondary pollutants that make the smog. And the reason why smog forms, because you might think that, okay, there's cars, there's factories, there's smoke that goes up in the air. Well, that smoke can keep going up, right? And then eventually it will exit the atmosphere, but that's not the case. For most cases, there's this phenomenon called an inversion layer, which is, as you can see this picture on the left, it's a change of temperature. So we're at the city, which is the bottom, and as you go up in elevation, the temperature decreases, right? So you're at the bottom, like in Los Angeles, it might be 80 degrees. Then you go on top of a mountain, and it could be 30 degrees. But then there is this phenomenon, which is called an inversion layer, that if you keep going up, sometimes the temperature rises, so it goes opposite. And then after a certain elevation, it goes back to normal. So what that creates, what that causes is for all the pollutants to be trapped in this depth, in this altitude. And sometimes this inversion layer is really low, which means that pollutants don't have anywhere to go. They will just stick at the bottom, and we all breathe it in. So, for example, Los Angeles, the reason, as you can see in the previous slide right here, Los Angeles, right here, smoke doesn't go past the mountains. And the reason why that's like that is because the inversion layer is right on top of the pollutants. And this is very clear in this one picture. So there's one house and one smoked stack, and it doesn't rise up after a certain elevation. It just comes back down, and then it gets mixed in a very relatively short elevation. And what this creates is for all the people that live in that altitude to breathe it. Sometimes people living on top of the mountains might not even breathe it. So we're going to move on to the paper that I sent you all. This paper is a fairly famous paper because when this was published, many news and magazines used it to tell the public that air pollution is a very big issue. Nature is a very prestigious scientific journal. And yeah, if you ever read a journal paper, it's basically like the most reliable source that you can get information from. So that's why I decided to send this paper to you. This paper came out earlier this year, I believe in September. And the main findings of this was that outdoor air pollution causes around 3.3 million premature deaths per year worldwide. So you might have heard that air pollution causes 7 million deaths a year. And that is both outdoor and indoor air pollution. However, this paper just talks about outdoor air pollution, such as smog. This research was done by carrying upon few epidemiological studies, which connected premature death to ozone, which I previously talked about, and PM 2.5, which is the very small particles that are suspended in the air. And they found the largest issue in Asia. So here's a figure from the paper and some numbers in the chart. As you can see, some places have higher death rates than others. And what this paper talked about is that depending on the region, on your region in the world, the source of that pollution is from different, it's completely different. So for example, as you can see, Europe is mainly from agricultural processes. And then in the Sahara Desert or Northern Africa, it comes from natural sources like dust from the desert. Or for example, I guess in Northern United States, the gray area, it's from industrial processes. However, here's a list before we go into further detail. This is the list of the top 15 ranked countries for premature death in 2010. So the issue here is that they account, or they mention that they assume that all the pollutants have the same toxicity, which that is not necessarily very accurate. Second. There you go. So it is not very accurate because some pollution or particles that we previously talked about are more toxic than others. So later on in the paper, they give another figure, and it shows a source categories responsible for the largest impact on mortality in 2010 from carbonaceous aerosols. Carbonaceous aerosols are aerosols that are from carbon burning, basically, which could be from coal. And these aerosols have been shown to have 5 times larger impact than inorganic and crystal compounds. So remember, when I talked about dust is usually a natural source, silica, and it doesn't have carbon. It is the burning of coal and the burning of wood that is a lot more toxic than the other particle matter. So let's go over it again. So this is a lot more accurate figure. So industry, which is the gray, it shows that there was a main concern right here in the Seattle, Vancouver area, and I guess right where the Canadian border is, which I think is very interesting. TRA is land traffic, and land traffic, it's interestingly enough related to the United States, Europe, and that could be because of people have a lot of cars. RCO is residential energy use, like heat and cooking. And as you can see, India and China have this is the largest cause of death in these regions. Then BB is biomass burning, which is in developing countries. As you can see, the Amazon, when they burn the big forests, it is not necessarily anthropogenic emissions. Sometimes anthropogenic meaning it might not be caused by men, sometimes by humans. Sometimes it is caused by lightning. But that biomass, and by biomass I mean trees, wood, and not wood in your kitchen, but when the jungle burns or when a forest burns, that is considered biomass. So as you can see, where there's a jungle, there's a lot of vegetation, those are very big sources of this pollution. And then agriculture, it is the green. And as you see, Europe in this one, it is not as green as it was in the previous one. And that is because they took into account carbonaceous aerosols are a lot more toxic. A lot of emissions from agriculture. A lot of emissions, sorry, I just got a notice from Zoom. A lot of emissions from agriculture are not carbonaceous. and nats is natural, like I said, dust. Where is recording here? All right, so sorry about that. For those that are watching the video, I'm sorry, we had a little technical difficulty, but here we are again, and we're gonna pick up by this map that we were in this one. So I wish my screen didn't have this stop share thing because it doesn't let me read anything. But okay, so we're here in this map. And we previously talked about the sources from different parts in the world. We talked about the toxicity and how toxicity is relevant to pollution. So it's not just, that the air is dirty and then dirty air is just bad. I mean, depending on what is in the air, it will be bad or not. And we previously talked about carbonaceous pollution versus non-carbonaceous pollution. And carbonaceous pollution had very different outcomes than when they assumed that all toxicity was the same for all pollution. So now we're in this map, and what this map is a figure or the world, and how it's going to increase, or the mortality, the premature mortality related to PM 2.5, which again, particulate matter of 2.5 micrometers or smaller, and ozone for population less than 5 years old and more than 30 years old. So don't look at the map just yet, just look at the numbers above, and then we'll discuss the map. So as you can see, the numbers differ for each part of the world. PM 2.5, which is on the left, and they have ALRI, IHD, CEV. These are all different diseases. So like ALRI is respiratory infections, COPD. I don't have the exact list, but it's listed in the paper. I should have this written somewhere. But there are the different diseases. So this one right here is for 5 years, less than 5 years, then more than 30 years. I mean, ALRI happens, it's more common for it to happen in children, so that's why they don't talk about it in 30 years or older. And okay, so let's just look at ALRI and children of 5 years or younger. The computer's going insane. And then we see that in the Americas, can you guys see, Julene, can you tell me if you can see this thing up here, the mute stop video thing?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, good. Okay, because I have this thing in my screen that is not letting me read. It's like how the screen is covered. Okay, it went away. All right, so Africa. The population in 2010 it's 10 to the 6, but it's 809 times 10 to the 6. And then in 2050, it's going to increase by a lot. I mean, that's more than double. It's more than double by 2050. As that increases, the numbers of deaths in children are going to increase a lot as well. And in fact, when you look at the total number, as Africa develops, it's going to triple. The number of deaths are going to triple. Even though the population just double, the deaths are going to triple. And it's because Africa is, going to go through a process of industrialization. Cities are going to pollute more. And then the Americas, including North America, it is increasing. However, the deaths are not going to increase nearly as much, and that is because of all the technological advances that we have over here. So that is an interesting phenomenon to note. And then one astounding note is that, for example, Southeast Asia, in 2010, they have 1,762 times 10 to the 6 people in their country, and then in the region, and then by 2050 it'll be 2,332 times 10 to the 6. But then when you look at the total deaths, not looking at the different diseases, but at the total number, at the moment they have 162, or at 2010 they had that 162, and then it's going to become 2,470. So it's going to triple, even though the population is doubling. And when you look at the overall world population, the population is going to double, and the deaths for air pollution are going to double as well. So as you can see, the Americas and Europe, especially Europe, is not going to increase that much. When you look at Europe in 2010, the deaths are 381 versus 2050 is 530. Europe is not going to increase that much in deaths. But Southeast Asia, Africa, and the Western Pacific are the ones that are the highest concern. And you can see it in the map. So the map relates to the figure, to the table. And as you can see, the red spots are in India and China. And the reason why they're in these spots is because they have a lot of population already, and they're going to increase even more. And the country basically can't keep up with technologies to reduce its emissions. So if you read the paper, they have different scenarios. So this is business as usual scenario. So meaning if things stay the way they are right now, this is the increase of mortality from 2010 to 2050. And as you can see, India is by far the worst. China, surprisingly, is not as bad as India, but India is a really big polluter now, and it's going to increase even more, which is quite crazy. And as you can see, West Africa is going to be an area of concern. At the moment, West Africa is not so much. It doesn't pollute as much as China does. But China or what people foresee is that China is going to implement a lot more technologies than India and West Africa. So I can't see it again. A second. Let me move this thing that I have. All right. So here it gives you a breakdown of regions and child mortality and adult mortality. In Africa, they're all high. In the Americas, it's low. And obviously, the Americas are split into regions, America A, America B. And the paper specifies, it does it right here too. It tells you what specific countries are going to have high mortality and which ones are going to have low mortality. So for example, the Middle East, like the richer countries are going to have low child mortality and low adult mortality, but that the poorer countries, or I wouldn't even say that poor, but developing, are going to have higher mortality as well. So as you can see, continents are very segregated, except Africa. Africa is just all high. So that's an interesting factor to note. This is similar to what I previously mentioned. This is the increase. This is just 2010, and this is the number of deaths, which we previously talked about. Okay, look at the numbers in 2010 in Africa. So Africa D is 188 and Africa E is 49. This is 2025. Africa D is 282 and Africa E is 81. And then Africa D is 501 and Africa E is 158 in 2050. And the reason why Africa D is a lot higher is because there's more people living in there. And then when we go back, we look at the world, 3,000 times 10 to the 3 mortality rate in 2010, 4,000 in 2025 and 6,572 in 2050. So now I'm going to open it to discussion. I don't know how I'm going to do this. And we can go back to the different figures, or we can go more into specifics about what I talked about. Obviously, there's a lot more information in the paper, and it would take me forever to get into each little specific that I talked about. But yeah, basically this is going to serve as discussion. And I just realized, are you guys still on mute? Hello?
I'm here.
I'm here as well.
Okay. Julene?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna go, so this is the discussion. You guys can go, we can discuss different things about the paper. First off, Julene, how would you like me to do this? Do you want me to ask different questions, or does anybody have questions to start with, or?
Yeah, or if anyone just had any reactions, if there was one number that particularly stood out to you, something you'd want a little more clarification on.
Yes, so all of that Julene just said. If you would like more specifics, or would like me to talk about a specific from a country, or why PM 2.5 is bad, or just any questions. Are there any questions at all from whoever's in the call?
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, so this subject is pretty new to me, and
Okay.
I'm very interested because I think it's something that everyone should know about. And so I've been talking to some of my friends to get them involved in the video that you mentioned, a video in an email.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So yeah, so they, they're on board, but
Awesome.
they asked, like, okay, where can we read more information about the air pollution here in Denver? So is there like a website where you can go to and obtain information of each city in the United States, or
yeah, of course. Denver does have some air pollution issues as well. There is like a not weather forecast, but air pollution forecast website. It's called airnow.gov, where you can see the air pollution at the moment.
Okay.
And there's a conception, I don't know, somebody told me this the other day, said, oh, cold places don't get air pollution. I'm like, that's like, China has the worst air pollution in the winter. One is because of cold burning, because they have to stay warm.
Mm-hmm.
And also when it's cold, for example, Anchorage or Fairbanks has a very low inversion layer. So remember when I talked about mixing? That inversion layer is very close to the ground, so the pollutants are trapped in a very small space, and people breathe it. So I'm not sure about Denver, but Denver. So do you want to read about the past, about how it has been in the past, or do you want to know about the future, or like what type of information?
Just any information. I mean, background information about the past would be good, but also just anything that we can learn about it here in Denver.
Okay, yeah, definitely. I'll let you guys know.
Okay, thank you.
Let me make a note of that, and I can email you. And I think it's cool. Like the more people we have doing the video, the better.
Okay.
Because I want to make a documentary. Am I still recording, by the way?
Yes.
Should I record the discussion, or should I?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Would you like to announce the film project to those who may not be?
Yeah, I wanted
yet?
to do that at the end. Or, well, okay, I just do it to. My computer keeps going. To Nicole and Paula. I guess Nicole is she's not as aware as everybody else. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to make a documentary / awareness video. It wouldn't be as much of a documentary because it won't have a lot of specifics. It'll be just like a shocking video, basically. And we want it to be professionals, very professionally done. I am not making it. It's a film. People from my university, or I told the film department about this idea, and a couple students volunteered, and then a couple students told other people that are working in films, and they liked the idea. They thought they wanted to do something meaningful with it, so they decided to start a fundraiser through Indiegogo and to get people basically volunteered and donate cameras, donate sound systems, whatever goes into a movie, but they still need money and a producer to make it really good. And I'm close to Los Angeles, and the people that want to get involved with the project work professionally in Los Angeles with film industry, and they want to basically show the producers that this is going to be a great project and that people are on board, and that is going to be meaningful for the globe or for the world. So they asked me to tell you guys to record a video for 1 minute of yourself saying, I'm whatever, I'm Alejandra, I live in Denver, and our air pollution's bad because of this factory, or just a fact, just something related to air pollution that you know of your town, in your local community. Or it doesn't have to be your town, it can be your country. So it can be yourself in Beijing or whatever city in China, saying, China, we have this big issue, and just give statistics about how a certain amount of people are dying, whatever statistic that is shocking in your region would work, and just say it in 1 minute, record yourself with a fairly, I guess, shocking background, and they're going to compile all those videos and make a little trailer, and that trailer is going to be submitted to the producers. The producers are hopefully going to like it and they are going to give us the funding and the backup, because you can't really make a movie, like a good movie, without having professional support. And the students from my university want to make this a project that they can submit to film festivals and other professional film events. So it should be a very exciting project. And then once we get the funding or the producers on board, then we can start making the actual movie in a way. And also this trailer would serve for us as an organization, as an educational organization, to raise awareness about air pollution.
Seems awesome.
Hello? Who is it? Who's this? Oh, Paula. Oh, welcome. I didn't see.
That seems like an awesome idea.
Yeah. It should be pretty cool. We just have to get the producers, and that's the hardest part. But if we have people from everywhere showing that this is meaningful, then honestly, there's so many ideas in Hollywood, and I think they're going to realize that this is something that it's worth their time and money. So yeah, if you guys can record that video, that'd be great. If you guys need more info, Alejandra, I will send you more info on Denver, without getting too, because sometimes when you do research, especially from a science perspective, sometimes it gets over people's head. And if I said something that was like, what the heck is he talking about during this presentation, please write it down, or just try your best at writing it down and asking me later, because sometimes I just talk about it and I don't even realize that people don't know what I'm talking about. And that's, I mean, because, I do research on air pollution every day, so sometimes I forget.
Yeah. If you could also, I researched a bit on the air pollution here in Miami. I know it's not as, it's not as seen as in other cities, maybe because of its flat landscape. That's what I've heard. But I know there are many There's a lot of car pollution here in Miami.
Yeah. So the issue, for example, Miami.
Uh-huh.
The reason why Miami doesn't have as visible air pollution as Los Angeles is because it's flat, and then there's wind, and it rains a lot. So when it rains, a lot of those pollutants just get in the droplets in the water and they fall on the ground. The issue comes when you live in somewhere like Los Angeles, where there's a lot of
mountains.
Yeah, there's the mountains, exactly. So the mountains trap, or Denver, the mountains trap that air pollution. And then if it doesn't rain, it just stays there. It doesn't go away. And then these particles, or the particulate matter, is so thin that it's just like, it doesn't deposit. It doesn't go down in the ground. So Denver obviously rains a lot more than Los Angeles, so it's cleaner. However, it does still have pollution because of those mountains. Because the wind just brings it over and then it hits the mountains and it just stays there.
Miami, even though it doesn't have mountains and it, like, the air pollution is not as visible, it is still there because of the
yes, it is. It is. So as I previously mentioned, there's gases and there's particulate matter. So that I'm not 100% sure because I haven't read on it, but I'm pretty sure that the main pollution in Miami is NOx, and NOx is a gas from a car. So gases you can't see. So
by NOx, do you mean nitrogen oxide, like NO?
Yeah, NOx, and the X can mean 2 or 3.
Right.
It's basically a primary pollutant. It comes out of the car. So that doesn't have time to turn into ozone because it gets pushed inland or whatever the wind goes in Miami. But the NOx itself is bad when you breathe it. So you might not have ozone pollution, but you might have NOx pollution.
Okay.
So that's something to do research. And it might not be visible. However, what you can even do is, for the video, is to just stand next to a freeway and be like, I'm breathing this stuff.
Or next to the buses. There are a lot of old buses around, and I'm driving and I see all that gas come out of those buses.
There you go. If you can get a camera and just record that crap coming out of the truck or the buses, then that'd be fun.
Okay.
Yeah, and air pollution is not something, and as you saw in the paper, it's not something that is only specific or it only happens in certain regions. There's air pollution everywhere. The sources are what is different. Agricultural emissions, for example, are growing a lot of attention because it's really hard to measure So cows, it's not for sure, but they say that cows pollute more than cars do.
I've read about that.
Yeah, but it's hard to measure a cow or cows and farms. A car is easier because you just attach this this little machine to the tailpipe, and then you measure the car, and then you can multiply that emission by the number of cars, and then you also have emission stations or air pollution stations that measure the air quality. However, it is hard to measure cows and farms, and it's very difficult. There's a lot of research being done on that.
I think the rest of the people that are in this group are muted.
I think so. I think they are.
Yeah.
You can unmute yourself.
Sorry. To reduce audio feedback, it's easy if we just mute ourselves when someone else is talking. So that's why you might notice that a lot of us are muted.
Okay.
And so yeah, any source of air pollution, whether if it's obvious that it's coming out or not, will do. Even if you want to stand next to a car and be like, this is my friend and she poops a lot and I'm breathing it. whatever you would like.
In order to solve, like in the future, solve agricultural pollution, would it be advised to eat less meat, I don't eat meat.
Yes,
personally,
yes,
but
yes. That
I'm
is.
looking at other people.
You should watch this documentary.
I don't either.
It's a fairly new documentary called Cowspiracy.
I saw it. Yeah.
Oh, you saw it. Okay, good. So it talks about the issue with meat. I would say it is the case. Yes. I mean, it's difficult. It's difficult because it's really hard to measure air pollution from cows or from agricultural processes. I wouldn't say, by eating less meat, you would be helping that. However, if one person stops eating meat, it's not going to make much of a difference. And the thing is, people or the meat is already dead, or the cow is already dead. So there's people that are arguing that it's like, are we really make a difference? Because people are still going to drink milk. They're going to use other cow products or chicken, like people still eat eggs. So for example, if you become a vegetarian, you can still drink milk, right?
Yeah, it's vegan when you stop eating animal products.
Yeah, so if you become a vegan, yes, then I guess that really helps.
I'm vegan 4 years, so
I'm too.
I should try it.
Wow.
Yay!
That's awesome. So vegan, yes. Oh yeah. So if you become vegan, then it will really help, I guess. Yeah. Animal waste. And the main concern with that too is that the food that it takes, or the amount of grains that it takes to feed animals, cows and chickens, if you use that, and instead of feeding it to animals, you use it for people, you could feed the whole world. So there's something interesting too, is that we're using all that food for animals when we can just spread it out. But that's obviously, you can't do that. You can just do that. It's a lot more complex than that. But if you're vegan, you can reduce, or I guess you can't reduce, because other people are still gonna eat it, but at least you can make an effort. And you gotta make it obvious that that's the reason why you're vegan.
Did you see Cowspiracy?
Me?
Uh-huh.
I watched parts of it. So it's a good documentary to watch. It is a little biased in some parts.
Sorry?
Politically biased. It is a little biased, politically biased. I mean, but that doesn't take away the fact that it is true. Basically, most of it, the stuff that they say.
And many organizations, like the movie was saying, they do not mention agricultural pollution.
No, they don't. But part of that reason is not just because they don't want to, or because of the companies are taking people and brainwashing them to not do it. It's just, it really is difficult to do it. Like, if you could put like this big thing over a cow farm and then collect everything, all the emissions, and then measure it, it would be. But I mean, I'm sure the meat industry has a lot to do with it. But on top of that, it is difficult. Like the procedure is very difficult to do. But it would be a good way to, when somebody asks you, why are you vegan? You tell them, because I want to reduce air pollution. Then that would be a very good way to promote safe air, just by your eating habits. So it is good.
In California, is agricultural pollution a huge problem?
It is because the Central Valley, so California has a lot of cows, which doesn't make sense because we're a dry climate, and in dry climate, grass doesn't grow. So they're growing all this grass in the Central Valley with water that we don't have. I don't know if you're aware of this, but we're in a really bad drought, like really bad. Reservoirs are empty. People are struggling in the Central Valley to water plants. So they're using that water. A lot of that water goes to grass to feed the cows. And it is a big issue because of that, and also because of air pollution, because we have a whole mountain situation. It's hot, it's sunny, and all those agricultural procedures create a lot of particles in the air. And there's a race between what city is more polluted, Riverside or Bakersfield. Bakersfield is the city in the Central Valley, which is very highly polluted by particulate matter, PM 2.5. It is the most polluted by particulate matter, that is a fact. And then Riverside is the most polluted by ozone. And ozone it comes from Los Angeles. It's that NOx that I talked to you, that you mentioned, that travels inland, and then it turns into ozone as it travels because of the sun. And then the inland empire is from all the agricultural processes. So it is a huge issue. Especially cows are a huge issue in California. But obviously you can't take them away because meat industries have a lot of power. So, Paula? She froze, I think. Yeah, she froze. Well, anybody else has a question? Yeah, she froze. Is there a way to hang her up or no? Paula?
Yes, the internet went away.
No worries. Did you hear what I said or no?
No.
Oh. I was saying that cows are a big issue in California because of the water and because of air pollution. Summary, basically. Okay. It doesn't make sense for us to have cows here. It doesn't make sense for us to grow pistachios or, there's a lot of crops in California that don't make sense. And on top of that, there's the cows. And that's the reason why we have such a big issue. People in their houses don't use that much water. The big issue is in agriculture. But people like to hate on Los Angeles. If you go to a rural place and you tell them about the whole drought situation, they say, oh, Los Angeles is stealing all of our water. Los Angeles is using their water for city purposes and things that people don't need. But in reality, I don't know the percentage, but most of that water goes to agriculture. LA takes it has a big chunk of it, but we also have a lot more people.
Is that one of the reasons that Texas, Houston, Dallas also has a lot of air pollution because of agricultural reasons?
I'm not so sure. I know Houston has a bad pollution issue. I know that. I think they have a lot of refineries in Houston. I'm not 100% sure. Mm-hmm. They don't have the whole mountain situation and the whole trapping of pollutants. I think, I'm not 100% sure on this, so don't quote me on this, but I think they have a lot of refineries.
Okay. And
a lot of power plants. And I think California has a lot. Doesn't California have some crazy amount of agricultural, like it grows most of the food of the United States, something like that? So yeah, I'm not what the differences are. But next forum is on agriculture.
Okay.
So we'll talk more about it once I brush up, because I don't measure agricultural emissions, but it'll be very good for me to learn as well and to discuss it with you guys. But going back to the paper, to the Nature paper, agricultural emissions might not be as toxic. So remember how they were talking about carbonaceous aerosols or particulate matter versus general aerosols, and they showed how Europe, the whole continent, had agricultural emissions as the main source of mortality. But then when they put in carbonaceous aerosols, it was a lot more focused into the cars and industry. And that's because agricultural emissions don't produce carbonaceous aerosols, which are proven to be more toxic. So when it comes to health, agricultural emissions do affect you. but not as much as carbonaceous aerosols. What agricultural emissions do affect a lot is climate, because methane, which comes from cows, is a greenhouse gas, and it has a lot higher warming potential than CO2. It is short-lived. It doesn't live as long. It doesn't stay as long as in the atmosphere, but it warms the atmosphere. So that is one of the main concerns, is for climate change. Not so much for health, but it's still related to health. Okay, any more questions in this break?
I actually have a question. So in LA, who do you find is the most maybe susceptible to outdoor pollution, and who seems to be the most vocal or active in fighting against it? For example, is it university students or government officials or mothers? Like, who seems to be rallying for this the most there?
So California is the most, I'm just going to put it this way, it's the most anal state of the United States when it comes to air pollution. In fact, it has the highest regulations, mainly because we have the worst issue with air pollution. The people that usually get affected the most are poor people, because rich people tend to either live high elevation in the mountains or they live in the ocean. Poor people are the ones that live inland in the desert where the air pollution is going to, or they live by the freeways. Rich people don't live by freeways. So it's usually poor people or the lower income people that have the worst effects from air pollution. And the people that are fighting this, so we have several boards in the States. We have the California Air Resources Board, which again is really anal with smog checks. I know some states don't have smog checks. We have to have our cars checked for emissions every year. And when you're building a factory, or there's a limit on the emissions you can put out in the atmosphere because of this board. They have regulations within the states. And so the federal regulations are a lot lower, they're a lot weaker. And California, they're a lot higher. They're not as high as Europe's, but pretty high. And also university students do, I wouldn't say they rally as much. You'd be surprised, because there's still air pollution and people just kind of live with it. There's already very harsh regulations implemented. It's just the cities keep growing. And then as the cities keep growing, the more pollution there is. So it's not necessarily the government's fault. In California, other places, it is a government's fault that it's really bad. But you can't rally against population growth. It's just kind of a phenomenon that happens. But what you could do is implement or donate filters to those people that are the most susceptible to air pollution. So for example, those that live by freeways, they're exposed to it, and if they don't have filters in their houses, they breathe it all from, all that comes, they breathe it. And then people in Riverside, or San Bernardino is pretty bad too, air pollution. That whole Inland Empire region is lower income than Orange County and Los Angeles. Those are the ones that get affected by Los Angeles pollution the most. So did I answer your question, more or less?
Yeah, that was great. Thanks.
Okay. Any more questions? But as you saw in the map, I'm just gonna go back to it again. The map in the United States, like look at this. The United States is nothing in comparison to Asia. Asia is, especially India, needs, this is a projection into 2050, and unless decision makers do something about it, India is going to become basically unlivable. People are it's going to be toxic to live there. So, all right. And now we're going to talk about, what time is it? Okay, we have time. We're going to go over, this is going to be brief. We're going to go over the fiasco, the Volkswagen fiasco. I don't do research on cars, but it's a very interesting phenomenon, what happened. So we decided to go over it since it's so new. And I know you hear about it on TV, but it's better just to go into specifics, because this could happen anytime, anywhere. And I'm sure it happens in developing countries, and people don't even notice. And the whole reason why it was noticed is because in the United States, there's regulatory agencies that check this very well. So I guess let's get started with that. So Volkswagen, back in September, they were caught cheating smog checks or regulatory tests. And the engine that was the cause of this fiasco was a diesel. It was called clean diesel engine, which happened to be not clean at all. So you've heard about diesel cars and gasoline cars. In the United States, there's a lot more gasoline cars and there's diesel cars. Most of the trucks are diesel, most of the trucks are diesel and most of the cars are gasoline. And why does EPA regulate diesel? Diesel is known to be really toxic. The emissions, not the actual fuel. When I'm sure if you drink it, it'll be toxic. But the emissions from a car from diesel are known to be very toxic and cancer. They're known to be a carcinogen. They're known to be more toxic than gas. But what happens with diesel engines is that they can last a lot longer. And technically, in the long run, they're supposed to be better for the environment because the cars last longer. But when it comes to health, diesel is a lot worse for you. So there was a mitigation technology implemented, which is a catalyst that basically converts all the pollutants that come out, not all of them. It reduces the PM or particulate matter, hydrocarbons and carbon monoxide from diesel, and it reduces them greatly. However, Volkswagen was caught to be cheating on this, and the way they got away with it for so long is because the cars had a software or a system that when the cars were being checked for emissions, the technology went on. But then when they were driving on the road, the technology or the software wasn't or didn't work. So, and why did Volkswagen did this? Well, they wanted to save fuel, because as a person that goes to a car dealership and goes to buy a car, what do you care about the most? You don't really care that much about emissions, especially if you're a student or if you are not wealthy. You care about fuel, you want fuel efficiency, and you want a car that runs well, that accelerates well, and a car that is reliable. So they put this technology to work during initial tests so that they can pass it, but they turn it off for those reasons, to save fuel and to have a nice acceleration. So here's basically the technology, the nitrogen oxide trap. This is built into the diesel car, but the engine had to be on the whole time for the actual trap to work while they were working in the when they were driving on the road. But this got shut off, or there was a system that told the car that it was undergoing testing, and then while it was being tested, the computer knew to turn it on, and when they were done, they turn it off. So how did they get? Oh wait, before that, these are all the cars that got affected. So if you have any of these, Volkswagen is going to take care of you because they have to. They're forced to by EPA. They're going to basically fix it for free, and I will get more into detail later. But basically, it's cars that were made from the year 2009 to 2015. That diesel engine. This is the United States. Which states bought more cars than others? And I think it's interesting that both north coasts have the most amount of these cars than any other state. And the difference. So one sec. It was found. One sec. I'm getting this square keeps coming up. 1 second. So what the research found is that there was a big difference between the emission levels when they were being tested versus the regular driving. In some vehicles, it was from 15 to 30 times more than testing levels, and other vehicles were 10 to 20 times more. So that's a lot. And the amount of cars that this affected is a lot too. It's 11 million cars around the world. So imagine Volkswagen when they were caught, because they were caught in the United States. I could not even imagine being the CEO of Volkswagen. So the EPA, which is a US regulatory agency, fined Volkswagen $30,000 per vehicle because this happened. And then when multiplied by all those vehicles, it makes up to $18 billion. And interestingly enough, as a comparison, you can provide clean drinking water for everybody in the world for $10 billion, and they were fined $18 billion for a mistake. Not for a mistake, but for trying to cheat the system. And as I previously mentioned, they're recalling all the vehicles and they're fixing the problem free of charge. But when it comes to legal processes, that's going to be really messy and really ugly for them. The annual sales, this is up to 2014 when they were caught. So I doubt this is going to stay like this. And I think it's going to increase. I think this is going to go down. And just over a month, you can see how the stock prices have gone down. And they'll probably keep going down as they have to pay all the fines. All right, so that's a short little presentation. Are you guys there?
We're all here.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions? Sorry that my computer keeps like going away from PowerPoint. I don't know why it does that. So any questions regarding to this? Do you guys know the specifics before this? Or do you guys know the specific of the fiasco? What are your thoughts on this fiasco? Why do you think the company cheat the system when they knew that they were going to be charged so much money if they were caught? Other than just because they wanted to sell more cars. Do you think there's a deeper, deeper subject that people aren't taking into account?
Well, I think that similar to the Ford case back in the 70s, that where they had made a car where you hit it from the back and the gas tank would explode. But they decided to take the lawyer fees, and basically they kind of gave each lost life a price, and that cost was more or was less than fixing all of the cars. So, I mean, I don't think Volkswagen did it out of kind of just greed. I think it was more of trying to change the public's mind. Because I think after this, basically when Volkswagen started saying that diesel is clean, there was no other car company that really kind of promoted the same ideas.
Right.
So they created this notion. I think it would, even with the fiasco, it's going to be really hard to convince certain people that diesel isn't as clean as Volkswagen claimed it to be. So it was such a PR stunt and such an advertising and marketing campaign that a lot of people would probably not believe you if you showed them all of the evidence that you just showed us.
Right. So that is the thing, is people, I wouldn't say Americans didn't think it was cleaner, but Europeans, when I was in Spain, everybody wanted to get a diesel car because everybody thought it was cleaner. Technically, it is not cleaner. It is a lot dirtier and it's a lot more cancerous, but the technology was developed so that it could be cleaner. So technically they are cleaner now. It's just gonna, like you said, it's gonna take a lot of effort to gain trust, not just by Volkswagen, but any car that is a diesel car. People are gonna be like, oh, you guys are not as clean as, look what happened to Volkswagen. Like you guys might be doing the same thing. I think people now are gonna be more scared to buy diesel cars, which in a way it is a bummer because gas cars last a lot less time and they break down a lot quicker, which it ends up being worse for the environment. So it's very unfortunate that this happened to Volkswagen. I wouldn't be too concerned about everybody else. I mean, they're probably going to lose some revenue because they're not selling as many diesel cars. But Volkswagen, I believe the CEO got fired. Or I don't know, I think he resigned because of this. But do you guys know of anybody that has a Volkswagen? No? A Beetle? Nobody has it? Knows that has it? Anybody has a Beetle?
An old one.
An old one. I have a friend that has a Volkswagen, and she's basically, it's not that she's scared to drive it, but now she knows that it's contributing to the health of people around her, because it's very cancerous. What else? Any other questions regarding this issue? Jolene? No? Anybody?
What are, I guess, your own hopes after seeing this whole Volkswagen ordeal? Like, what, if you had the power to do this, what would be your recommendation to policymakers?
My recommendation would be to tell everyone to move away from diesel and gasoline and to start driving electric cars. But I can't do that. So that'd be the ideal. And then, for example, today during the conference, because a lot of people are concerned that the main source of electricity in the United States is coal burning, and that is true. But that doesn't have to be the future. You can get electricity from many other sources, such as solar, wind, all the renewable energies you can get electricity from. Especially solar here in California. I have no idea why every single house doesn't have a solar panel. And it's not that expensive. It's just people are scared of change. And if electric cars can become affordable, because at the moment nobody can afford a Tesla, and even hybrids, which are technically considered no low value, but what's it called? economical cars. They're not. They're still fairly expensive. Yeah, you save money because they don't use as much gas. But I think the future is electric cars. That is the future, and that would be the ideal. Some people say natural gas. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say there's a few companies, or at least the Toyota commercials that I've. Hello.
Julie? What's that?
Hello.
Hello?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. No, there were a few Toyota commercials out there that talked about actually turning like animal waste into a form of energy for cars through a special plant. So I don't know, do you think that would be the future to solve both problems, both agricultural pollution and kind of transportation pollution?
The issue with biomass, because a lot of people are doing research on biomass fuels or biofuels. Yeah, they're called biofuels. And that animal waste. The issue with that is that you still have to have a combustion process. And when you burn something, you get emissions. And when you get emissions, you still pollute. So that is the issue with that technology. I understand it is a little more reliable than electric or renewable energy such as solar. I guess it is a renewable energy. Biomass or biofuels are renewable because it comes from waste and animals keep producing that waste. But when it comes to pollution, yeah, it pollutes less, but it still pollutes. And it's still not ideal. Electric cars don't pollute at all, except the coal. If you are getting electricity from coal, then yeah, you're polluting. But ideally, you wouldn't have to. So that's my thought on that.
Being the devil's advocate, then where does the electricity come from? I mean,
solar?
What kind of source?
Solar, wind, geothermal.
Well, again, I personally haven't done too much research into it. Mm-hmm. But from what I know, wind energy isn't very reliable either.
It's not, yeah. So I think, and also it's expensive. And as technology develops, it's becoming a lot cheaper. For example, let me show you guys real quick. And I think this is a really exciting thing that's happening to the world. Let me just look it up to show you. There is, it's still not the cheapest thing ever, but okay. I'm going to share screen. Okay. Do you guys see this? Wait 1 sec. Have you guys seen this graph before?
No.
No.
Okay, so this is the price of. 1 second. What's happening? Okay, my thing just went away. There you go. Okay, so this is the price of solar energy over time. So this is the price of crystalline silicon photovoltaic cell, and this is dollar per watt. So look at the price over time.
Wow.
In 1977, it was $76 per watt. Now it's 74 cents per watt. In California, I don't know if this is everywhere in the United States, but in California, there's companies that will sell. They won't even sell you the solar panels. They will ask you, hey, can we use your roof to collect energy? They will install the solar panels and they will collect that energy from solar and then sell it to you like a public utility company would. Except in California, it cuts down the price by like a third. And I think that's also because our utility bills are a little too expensive, more expensive than other states. but it's still, you're saving money. They just have to use your roof, and you have to have it, and you have to sign a contract. But people are scared of it. People are scared that if they start using solar, a solar panel, and then you move out of the house, then, you know, there's just a lot of different issues. Not issues as in like it's not effective. Issues as in people are scared to change. People just rather come out to a gas station and, you know, fill their cars with gasoline versus having to plan their trips a little and charging their cars overnight. Because that's the issue with electric cars, is that you can't you can't drive for very long, and then it takes a long time to charge your car. That is the main issue, more than money.
Well, I think that's because it's just starting out now. Similar to solar, I think now we're at the point where we're not in 1977, but we're like 1980s. Mm-hmm. So it's going to go down pretty quick, I believe.
Yeah. So that it's exciting. It's very exciting. There's obviously people that still oppose to great ideas. I have no idea why, but it's getting better and better. I mean, I remember when the first electric car came out, nobody could afford it. Now at least there's hybrid, like the Prius. It's somewhat affordable. So yeah, it's becoming better and better. We're not there yet by any means, though. But when it comes to air pollution, for example, coming back to coal, China, the reason why China has such a horrible air pollution problem is because the government subsidizes coal. There's a river in China, I forget what river it is, but north of that river, the government subsidizes coal, and below that river, they don't. And the reason why they do that is because the north is colder, and they need more heating during the winter. So they want to keep people warmer, so they subsidize coal. And by burning that coal, they create their awful, awful smog. So it's, you know, it all comes to the same thing, moving away from fossil fuels, and even just any combustion into, you know, renewable sources. And not just renewable because they're renewable, but because they're clean. Because sometimes people say, oh, okay, well, they're renewable, but you think, like the biofuels, a lot of people do ethanol research, ethanol cars, but then, yeah, that's renewable, but it's not clean. And that's not what we want. We want something renewable and clean. And at the moment, the only one that is like really, really, really great, those two is solar.
Okay. A professor told me that in China, another contributor to air pollution was that government doesn't ensure something like this, doesn't ensure that cars have something of a converter of a, I don't know the specific word. I don't know.
Yeah, catalyst. Yeah. So governments in China don't have, I don't think it's a money issue, to be honest. Governments in China don't invest in smog checks. So California every year, Florida apparently not, because Julia told me that you guys don't have to. But in California every year we have to take our car, spend money, and take our car to a mechanic. Not any mechanic, it's a specific smog check person. And what he does is he attaches this machine to the car and checks the air pollution, the emissions that come out. If your emissions are above a specific level, you either have to get a catalytic converter, like you talked about, or you can't drive your car. Like if you get stopped by the cops and you don't have a smog tag on your car, you can get fined and your car can get taken away. China, that doesn't happen. There is supposed to be checks and regulations, but nobody enforces them. And it all comes down to education and people not knowing that what they're breathing is killing them. A lot of people don't know that air pollution is bad. A lot of people Like when you look at a weather forecast in China, it tells you that it's foggy, but it's not fog. It's air pollution. But that's what they tell their people, is that it's foggy. So
she's not a professor. Someone from the university told me about this, but what you were saying, the smog checks that you have to do in California, she had to do in Oregon as well. And she told me that it is not done in here in Florida, and I'm assuming in other states as well. So do you think, looking at the future, that is something that could be done in order to address air pollution?
Yes, I mean, obviously each place is different. I mean, if you don't have the inversion layers and the mountains, then it's not a big of an issue. Still, you should consider that, because, for example, you drive a car from Florida to California. It is something that needs to be considered, and in my opinion, it needs to be a federal thing. So the federal government is already considering making all these regulations a lot harder on people from the federal top government. Because at the moment, California is like the hardest, but the federal government wants to set an example for the world and have the whole country under the same regulations. Because again, you drive cars back and forth. It's not like your car can stay in one place. I have friends from other states that live here. And if you have a license plate from another car, you don't have to get smog checked, which is not good. That's not how it should be. But then, especially the places where pollution is bad, where it's proven to be really, really, really bad and toxic, like in India, in China, there needs to be more regulated, both from cars and for factories, and just basically everything in those places. They're just not clean places. And water as well. The rivers nothing lives in it. There's, again, I forget the name of the river, but if you look at it, there's like floating fish coming down the river because it's so polluted. Mm. So there just needs to be higher regulations, and there needs to be more of an enforcement from the government. It comes from the top. It also comes with education, but it's mainly from the top down. Yeah, there you go. It's from the top down more than from the bottom up, because people put this subject as the least priority. They first care about their, the food that they eat. They care about their lives, and sometimes either health. Well, I guess health they do care about, but environmental issues, it's people's last priority, which is not the way it should be. Because it all comes back to you. By us hurting the environment, we hurt ourselves. But people don't really see that. Another thing I was telling Julene, this conference that I just went to, Governor Brown from California spoke. The UN Climate and Clean Air Coalition spoke at this thing too. And it's really interesting that the UN has this organization that uses health as a way to get people to care about climate change. So the way they do it is by talking to people about health implications of pollution, of emissions from cars, saying emissions are going to kill you. Therefore, you should care about it because it's a direct connection, right? Like we care about these emissions, breathing them, and us ourselves being hurt directly. People don't care about the long run. People don't care about climate change. But then as you address those emissions from a health perspective, you're addressing them from a climate perspective. Because if you reduce emissions, then the climate, it's all related. And people in developing countries can't, or they don't care about climate because they are poor, they don't have money or the resources to afford initiatives to help climate change. So people care more about their health, and that's the best way to get people to make an effort about climate change. So that was cool. And I talked to her, and she might be one of the speakers for one of the forums, which that comes to my next part of the forum. After the discussion, oh, okay, let me show you this real quick. Yeah, that's the last thing. Can you see? 1 second. Smog. All right. I just want to show you guys something real quick. It's a very cool educational resource that you can use for either children, yourselves, your friends, whoever you want to share this subject or the issue of air pollution to. You can use this. It's very simple and very easy to use. Can you see my screen? Tell me yes or no. Somebody.
Yes, I see it.
See it.
Okay.
Can you also
Yes.
share the link in the group chat, please?
Oh, yes.
That'd be awesome. Thanks.
Sorry. Group chat. 1 second. Oh, here we go. So here's a link. I'm gonna search. It's in the PowerPoint too. So what this is like it's not a game. It's an educational experience. So basically, you have a city, and then there's different factors of your city. Different. What can you call these? They're the different. I can't find the word. The different parameters. There you go. The different parameters of your city, and you can change all these parameters and you can see how it affects the air pollution of your city. So, for example, we have cloud sky cover. So, as I mentioned previously, the sunnier it is, the worse air pollution because of all the photochemical smog that is produced. Inversion layer. The lower inversion layer, the worse air pollution they would be. And you can see the inversion layer is shown by this red line right here. And the temperature, the more temperature or the higher, the more heat there is in the city, the more pollution it's going to cause because of the same thing, photochemical smog. So here, emissions, energy sources. Okay, so also before I keep going, there's this information box right here that tells you how it affects. I'm not going to go into specifics, but you can later read it and see how all these different parameters affect your air pollution in specifics. So then energy sources. We increase the energy sources. This is clean energy. Clean energy is to the left. As you can see, there's windmills. And when you go to the right, it's dirty air. And see, our air pollution already changed just by changing the energy sources. Then if we add more cars, it gets even worse. Right here, it shows you the temperature and AQI. AQI is the air quality index, which tells you whether the air is good or bad. And this, when you search air quality in Denver or air quality in Miami, it will give you a number. And that is the index. So this educational resource can help you understand how the different numbers mean better quality or good air quality. And then off-road transportation.
So for air quality, the higher the number, the worse?
Yes.
Okay.
The higher the worse. So you can see right here in the right ground level AQI, the higher the more unhealthy it is. And then consumer products meaning like aerosols. We have that industry. And as you can see, even if all of these are bad or, they're all really high, the thing that affects air quality the most is population. So look at this. So high, it goes to unhealthy, and then it goes unhealthy. Okay, so it is not the worst case scenario, and the reason why it's not the worst case scenario is because there's wind. At the moment, there's high wind. It gets really, really, really bad when there's no wind at all. So I'm gonna put the wind all the way to the end. And it's very unhealthy, which is purple. So AQI is 227. Just to give you a reference, I'm gonna search just the worst AQI in China. Just because right now it's really unhealthy and it's 227. So in Beijing. At the moment, it's not too bad, but let me get the worst. Okay, so here is levels above 500. So, okay, going back to Smog City, this is 227 is really unhealthy, meaning people should avoid the outside and heavy exertion outdoors. Basically, if you can stay inside your house, stay inside your house. Well, in Beijing, it got up to 700. Let's see if I can find it. 700. So imagine. In Los Angeles, it doesn't get, so for example, air pollution in LA hasn't been really bad lately, but.
What about Mexico City?
Aquí. At the moment, it's probably not bad. Probably cooler. It's 104. It's not the best, but let's see the worst. I know Mexico has the worst air quality during the winter too. It's funny because Los Angeles has the worst air quality during the summer. So stop doing that. So this source, Alejandra, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so this is a very good website for Denver. For example, Denver is that little yellow sign.
Okay.
But that yellow will get worse during the winter.
Okay.
There is a better US website. It's called airnow.gov. You guys want to check it out? This is very accurate. This is the one I use. So for example, California. What's cool about this one? It's that you can check the forecast. So this is the forecast, and this is the current. So you can see like how it moves throughout the day. And this is good if you plan events, like when I go, like if I want to go jogging or if I want to go hiking with friends, I look at this and I see how it's going to evolve throughout the day, because sometimes you can't go hiking. It's that bad that you shouldn't go hiking. But this is really good for current AQI around the world. As you see, as we get, oh, Peru. That's not cute. That's not pretty. That's not pretty. I wonder why it's that bad. But for example, let's look at India.
I think in Peru, it also has to do with the mountains, right?
Right, exactly. No, the mountains and India too. Like, look at India.
Wow.
The reason why India is so bad is because they have the Himalayas, and what the wind comes from the south. And I mean, they're very polluting, don't get me wrong. But the mountains just stops it. But look how bad this is. This is really bad. So yeah, as you can see, Asia is
Terrible. Wow.
yeah, Asia is something else. Yeah. There's no mountains here though. That's a funny thing. The mountains are all in the west. This is all flat. So yeah, this is a very good source. I'm gonna put in the chat as well. Some people have it. But I'll give you more specifics about Denver. Okay, and then, so yeah, this is when you guys want to teach people about air pollution and see how all these different factors affect it. This is a great source. And then if you want to look at the world, different AQIs throughout the world, this is a great source. Obviously, North Korea doesn't have any monitoring stations. So yeah. And with that, Paula, would you like to, just real quick, because we don't have a lot of time, would you like to give an update about the fellowship?
Well, I know like in the fellowship, we haven't focused on the health campaign much because like I'm representing another organization, the Alternative Breaks organization.
Okay.
And I know that Sarah, she's also part of the fellowship, but she hasn't, since she lives, I believe in Jupiter.
Yeah,
Right?
she lives further.
She lives far away. She hasn't been able to come to one of our meetings. She was there. Like we did like a web, no, it's not a webinar. It wasn't Skype. I don't know. We did like an online thing, and then she joined us on Skype. But I haven't been able to actually see her in person.
Okay.
But still, like I haven't spoken about this much in the fellowship. But basically, I'm part of this program on campus. It's called Berry Service Corps Fellows. And we each form part of different justice teams. I form part of the Global Citizenship Justice team. And so as part of that program, I need to do a service project. And what I am going to do is that I'm going to basically like partner with different organizations around the Miami area to learn more about air pollution, how it happens here in Florida.
Okay.
So I know like I met with my advisor and she gave me a lot of advice. I could even speak to, like we work with a coalition of Immokalee workers, and I could speak to them to see how air pollution affects farm workers through the fertilizers and everything they use. Or another example is that I know that, okay, I can work with biology and chemistry departments on campus because they go out to the community and they study the air pollution atmosphere. And then like they work with kids to educate them about it. So I'm going to be doing that. And then I believe in like at the end, like we have to work on this project throughout the semester and following the following semester as well. So at the end, we have to present this information. And then what I was planning to do is that around April, there will be an environmental conference around Earth Day. And so I was planning to give a presentation there. And I know you suggested, you and one of your emails said that we can organize an event in which we could give a Fair for All campaign speech. So I was thinking of doing that as well.
Yeah, of course. That's what Imane did in Morocco. She just gave like a spiel about the organization, what we did and what we're trying to accomplish. And well, and more than that, what she did is explain about air pollution. She did a little bit of research about her city. So it'll be nice for you to do research about Miami, just to explain about it. There's a couple TED Talks that are really good that just like summarize air pollution in a very good way, very simple. 30 minutes, boom, 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 shocking factor, everybody likes it. So those are very good things to use for your talk. I'm also doing something like this at a conference in November. So I'm just explaining air pollution, how bad it is, and then our initiative, basically. So yeah, we can definitely, I can help you out with that. I can help you out. Set it up.
That would be a plan, and then since like there will already be the infrastructure for the conference that is happening in April, I would just have to like submit a proposal for me to do this presentation.
Oh, okay.
And I would already have like the audience, like the students that would be coming to this.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So if you're so you wouldn't have to recruit people to come, right? People just show up.
I believe not. Like I need to be more, I'll inform myself more about this, but I'm pretty sure, no, I'm not sure. I'll see.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. Sounds very good.
And, this way I'll be, like, I don't know much about air pollution here in South Florida, so it'll be a way to work with community partners to see how this affects the community. And I know, like, she mentioned that there are many cases of asthma that have arisen because of this air pollution.
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
also, like, she told me that there's not a lot of data that shows how air pollution affects citizens here. So.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if there's any, like, air pollution research from Florida. I looked at it too. I'll check it out. I'll check out the one in Denver and Florida, and I'll send you guys. I know Denver for sure because I've heard Denver a couple times in air pollution talks. Miami, I've not, but that could be because people don't even think about it. Also, Miami, the thing with Miami is that it rains a lot, right?
Right.
Yeah, so that helps, but still, people still live next to the freeway, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and also another thing is that as I continue with my research and everything, I'll look into how it affects like low-income communities, because I know that these communities are the ones that are the most affected.
Okay, sounds good. Julian said something.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, sounds good. Let me write that down.
I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah. There's a few. There's one from Greece that is very good. There's one. There's a couple that are. Let me write that down. Okay. Cool. All right.
And I know, like in the fellowship, like we'll continue to talk about once I start talking to Sarah more, we can both talk about what we're planning for the health campaign and how we can educate the community here in Florida.
Okay. Sounds good. Very good. And then because Sarah and Julia are near there, so that'll be nice. I have those people over there. Sounds very good. Anybody? Julian said something else. Julian, you hear me, right? Okay. In website. Okay. I'm writing your notes. I'll make sure to put that on there. Yes. All right. I think you guys can talk now. Paula, you're done, right?
Yes.
Okay. So any further last questions? I know it's like 10 p.m. over there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's getting late for you guys.
Yeah. Did anyone have any last comments? Otherwise, I can help close this forum.
That's it.
Are there any suggestions of what we can do in our everyday lives to contribute to better air quality, or would you suggest to just educate people on the subject?
Yeah. So
Action?
right. The more you educate, the more you're able to engage people or just get people to talk about this issue. The better, because I mean, the main issue with air pollution is that people don't know about it, and sometimes you can't even see it. So the more, I think it's good for you, especially in Denver, because I know for sure there's bad days in Denver, is for you to check out your air quality when you wake up, and see how it's going to be. If you ever see that it's misty, misty meaning there's a way to tell. If it's moist outside, it might not be air pollution, but if it's dry and it's misty, it can be air pollution. So it is good to know the situation, and it is good to know what's causing it. And also what you can do on your daily life is also to drive as little as possible, which it's kind of impossible in some places. Like here, I can't just stop driving. There's just no way. But you could also help by not using as much electricity, because the less electricity you use in your house, the less coal that is burned to produce electricity. What else you could do? Mainly education, because you never know when you're gonna come across somebody that lives in a place that is polluted, especially in poor areas. People that live next to the freeway, those are the ones that are usually hurt the most. So there needs to be at least some education in relationship to this. So for sure, education is the best thing. And then get to know your part, get to know your area. And then, yeah, there's many ways. Just any way to save energy is a way to reduce air pollution.